Okay, so in this video, we are starting with a puppy who has been on the leash with a harness to go out and go potty and things of that, but not a ton of leash walking. So I started out just doing some simple leash walking with a short leash, and then I moved to the long leash. Now the first part of this video is the sound was terrible. The wind was worse on this. So what I did is I went ahead and muted what I was doing yesterday, but I am going to do a voiceover to kind of explain what's happening, but you'll still be able to see the action of what we're doing. And then the second portion, once it gets on in there, the volume was okay. When I switched to a long lead, the volume was okay, so I kept most of that in there. So this puppy is probably, I don't know, 9-10 weeks, if that, 8-9 weeks, something like that. So she did a really good job, but it was definitely warm yesterday when we were recording this, and she got a little worn out, but it was overall, I think, very successful. I did switch her to a collar instead of the harness, but if you are using a harness, it's the same techniques. So I hope you enjoy this video. Hope you learn a whole lot. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to start out doing is, if your puppy doesn't know what good girl means, or good boy, you'll need to condition your verbal marker. And all you do with this is take about 10 to 12 small bits of either kibble or treat, and without expecting the puppy to do anything, you say good girl and treat, good girl, treat, good girl, treat. Make sure you say your verbal good girl before you give the treat. And you're going to do this for all 10 or 12 pieces. Try not to reward the dog if the dog is jumping. Just give the dog a second and then go back to finishing up the conditioning of your marker. You're going to use that marker, good boy, good girl, throughout the walking process. Now, the two commands that we are using, you will see us use let's go, which basically means we are on the move and we are going somewhere together. In other words, I want you to come along with me. Now, in the beginning, you have to kind of be patient with the pup because the pup is still learning. You're very light on that leash, but as soon as that dog starts moving with you, you are a good girl and you are going to reward that. You want to make sure that you are constantly good girling any little movement. Now, if you're doing this somewhere in the safety of a backyard or in the house, you can just drop the leash and get the dog to follow along that way. Otherwise, if you're somewhere where your dog needs to be on leash, just make sure you're gently guiding. And the other command we use is this way, which means we are now changing direction, because you don't want to just go from point A to point B. You want to keep the dog on its toes by changing direction. Sometimes it may take you a second with the puppy just sitting there. You don't want to yank on the leash. You may have to gently guide using the leash, but make sure that you're going to constantly encourage the puppy. And any movement that is just close to being what you're looking for, which is either walking towards you or just moving in general, I want you to verbalize. When you're working with the puppy, you should absolutely be talking to it the entire time. And so the things that you would say would be, let's go this way, or good girl. Those are the only things that should be coming out of your mouth. As this puppy is trying to move along, I try to keep the leash next to me and keep the leash more stationary with me, but also very gentle on the leash. As you see, the puppy likes to bounce around. Just make sure that you have to give in a small amount sometimes if the puppy's having a little fit, but I don't want you to give in to where the puppy has a fit and then goes in the direction that it wants to go in. You want to teach the dog that walking with you is the key here. Now, this dog also had a little bit of nervousness around cars, so I was doing a lot of rewarding when the cars were coming by. If the dog got scared, there was no it's okay or trying to console. It was just more of rewarding when the cars went by. Having a dog that's scared of a car is not the worst thing in the world. I want them to be respectful of the cars, but I don't want them running away from the cars, because that can also be dangerous. So you definitely want to make sure that you are talking with the dog, and I'm rewarding every single little step. I am not looking for big behaviors. I'm looking for small things, and I'm making it fun for the puppy. I'm very high-pitched. I'm having a good time with it. I'm not trying to get anywhere. I'm just staying in the first little bit of area just to get some success with this puppy. And if you just slow down and take your time, your puppy can start learning how to walk with you, with or without that leash. Obviously safety first, but the puppy learns that walking with you and being a partner with you and being on a team with you is very, very important. All right, so this next section will be long leash.
Woohoo, you ready? Goodness gracious. Good. Let's go. Yay, good girl. Good job. Yes, good girl. Good job. Blue, this way. This way. Good girl. Yay, good job. Good girl. Yes. Who's a good girl? Who's a good girl? Yes. Good girl. Yes, this way. Good girl. Good job. That's a good girl. Good job. Good girl. This way. Yay. Good girl. This way. This way. Yay, good girl. Good job. That's my good girl. Yeah. That's a good job. Good. This way. This way. Yes, good girl. Good job. Blue comes. Yes, good girl. Good job. Good girl. Yes, a good job. Good calm. Good job. Yes. Okay. Who's a good girl? Who's a good girl? This way. Good girl. Yes, good girl. Yes, this way. Good girl. Good job. That's a good girl. Good job. Woohoo! Let's go. Yay! Good girl. Good job. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. Oh, that's a good girl. That's a good job. Oh, that's a good girl.
Remember, gentle guidance only. No yanking on the leash. If you have an older dog, you can start the same way. Now get out there and start practicing.